All right, we're here in Knoxville with John and Miranda, and that's little Wyatt there. And John, can you tell us a little bit about all of these pumpkins that you're raising?
Yeah, so we grew about 15 different varieties. Our largest ones were up to about 60 pounds. Smallest ones are the little tiny ones like these. And we actually, I've never grown more than 3 pumpkin plants in my life, and we just decided to go for it. So we grew about a half acre, which was 1,250 seeds.
Wow.
And each plant grows somewhere between 1 and 7 to 10, depending on the size of the pumpkin. The larger it is, the smaller number you get. And then the smaller pumpkins, you get a larger quantity, and that's kind of how we went with that. I think we ended up growing somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 pumpkins, if I estimated.
So how big is a half acre?
Half acre. So if you look right behind us, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it goes all the way from the stop sign over there to where the sunflowers are, and that would be about 0.57 acres.
Okay.
And it's approximately 150 feet by 180 feet.
So sometimes our farmers talk about an acre being about the size of a football field. So would it be like half the size of a football field?
Yes, approximately, yeah.
Okay. And what do you mean when you say you grow different varieties of pumpkins?
Yeah, so different varieties would be like different species, kind of. And so you can see, for instance, we have like this white one. That's one type of variety here. These right here are called cotton candy. That's their brand name. And then you have different ones like these orange ones right here. These are jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, which are great for carving, great for eating. All of our pumpkins that we grew out here are edible, so you can eat any of those. And then we have some larger pumpkins, like this one right here. And this one would be a gold medal. That would be the brand name of that one. And that one's probably, it's not our largest breed, but it is one of our larger breeds on that.
So I could eat all of them. Are they all good then for making my pumpkin pies at Thanksgiving? You
could make them into pumpkin pies. I've actually never done it, so I don't know. I don't know exactly how good one breed would be versus another. We did have some pie pumpkins, which are specifically bred for making pumpkin pies, but we actually have already sold all of those.
Wow.
I know a lot of people like to take the seeds out of these and eat them, and you can eat the seeds out of any of them, and I'm assuming they all taste about the same.
Okay, so it looks like you've got some white pumpkins.
Yep.
That you talked about. So are they white on the inside too?
No, so these actually look very similar to the orange pumpkins on the inside. And actually, so you can see we have a couple different varieties right here. So this, like I said, is the cotton candy. This one has a little bit of warts on it. It's a little yellower. This is called the Spectre. And when you cut them open, they would look almost exactly identical to the orange pumpkins on the inside. And the reason that this one's a little more yellow than this one is because it's a little more ripe. So this one would have turned very yellow if you let it ripen all the way.
Okay.
We pick them so they're prettier when they're smaller like this.
So what makes those warts on the pumpkins? That's what I call them, warts, not bumps.
Yep, that's a type of mutation that happens, and it's actually bred by breeders of pumpkin seeds to actually have those kinds of things. We have some large orange pretty ones called bunch of warts, and then we have the white, smaller ones that are, like I said, the specters.
So scientists are doing something then with the seeds to make the pumpkins grow and look different.
Yes, it's called selective breeding. And so if they find a type of pumpkin that has more warts, they'll actually select those and rebreed those, and then they'll choose the ones with the most warts again. And then it just kind of breeds that type of, trade into it.
Okay. So what about these ones that look like they're really green?
So there's different types of green ones. So there's some green ones which I picked, which are just the orange ones before they ripened. For instance, the ones down here to my left. That is just an unripe pumpkin, but we chose it because it makes a very good color when you mix it into a bunch. People like to use them for decoration. And then we have like these ones right here, and those ones are called blue dolls. They're actually intentionally bred to be that color, and they're also, honestly, for the size of them, they're our heaviest pumpkin. They have the thickest skin on the inside, kind of like the rind when you see a watermelon. It's very, very thick on the inside there.
So what color are the blue ones on the inside?
I think they're mostly green. I've only seen one split open.
So we're probably not eating too many of those then?
No, I've honestly never eaten most of these types of pumpkins. I just know that you can.
So we're just using them for decoration?
Mostly decoration, yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you took the ground here and changed it into a pumpkin patch?
Yes. So when we moved in here in April, the grass was approximately up to my chest, and it had previously been a horse pasture. So what we did was we actually had a local farmer come out with a tractor, and he plowed all the grass over, where it literally just flipped the ground over about 1.5 feet deep. And then we had another relative of ours who has a tractor and a tiller come over, and he actually re-tilled everything. That way it broke that ground down into really small chunks. That way we could actually plant and level it out. We had to till it for about 3 times over to really break that ground up in order to be able to get the soil soft enough and loose enough to be able to plant. After we got it all tilled, we actually had to go out there, me and my son and my wife and a friend of ours went out there, and we actually would pull the dirt and try to make little mounds about 1 foot tall, and we had to make approximately 420 mounds throughout the entire field. Each one gets about 3 seeds, so you have 3 plants growing out of each mound, which is where you get your approximately 1,200 plants growing out there.
Wow, so you only put 3 seeds in each of those mounds?
Yep, only 3 seeds.
3 seeds, and how many pumpkins do you think grew from those 3 seeds?
From each 3 seeds, so the larger pumpkins, like these ones, if you can see them, and the ones that are bigger than that, you probably only get somewhere between 1 and 3 pumpkins per plant. And so in 3 seeds, you're talking somewhere between 3 and 9 pumpkins. But when you get into the smaller ones like these, you get somewhere between 7 and 10 is what they say. I think we actually had a really good year. So I think I saw some that had even up to 15 to 20. So on 3 plants right there, you'd be talking about 45 to 60 pumpkins on those.
Wow. So when did you actually plant your seeds?
Yeah. So I went ahead and I planted our seeds at the end of May, beginning of June, which is actually a little later in the season than most people do. I did that to time it to line up with Halloween and being just a little bit before Halloween when the pumpkin should be ready. It takes approximately 90 to 120 days for the growing season for pumpkins. The smaller ones like these tend to be a little bit shorter, like that 90 days, and then it just tends to get longer and longer depending on the size of your pumpkins. That way they can absorb more water, because that's what actually grows the pumpkins.
Because there's a lot of water in pumpkins.
A lot of water, and actually the vines that they grow on are hollow. So when I cut them, you can actually see water almost pour out of them. Cool. It's very fun to watch, actually.
Oh, that does sound neat. So if you had planted them earlier, you might have had jack-o'-lanterns for the 4th of July?
Maybe not quite 4th of July, but definitely August. And then by now, like I said, these white ones, you need to pick them before they're truly ripe. Otherwise, they'd be yellow. So all these would be a very weird yellow color. And then a lot of people don't necessarily like that yellow color for Halloween. And so you want to make sure you line that up to where you can pick them where they're not overly ripe for Halloween season and when people are decorating their front porches.
So what do you think you'll be doing next year? Will you be planting more pumpkins than you did? Will you be planting pumpkins that you think sold the best or grew the best? How are you going to decide what is going to happen next year?
Yep. So this year was our first year. I've never done it before, so it was really just a tester year, which is why I had 15 different breeds. And really, within those 15, we had multiples of different breeds that were supposed to be similar. And so we were actually testing different ones against each other. So like we had multiple that were this size that are different breeds, but to find out which ones grew the best in our land here. And so what we're going to do is I actually plotted out where each plant went so that I can go back and see approximately how many I think came out of there. And we'll actually be expanding pretty substantially this coming year. I'm thinking I'm going to go from about a ½ acre to maybe 2.5 acres.
Wow.
Just because we've done so well this year and I want to really see. Now I'm hoping that I can get enough help working on the farm to actually get that done, because with this year it was mostly me and then occasionally a friend or family member. And so it would be really difficult to do 2.5 acres on my own.
I know a lot of kids. I think they would love to come out and do this. They would think this is very cool. Well, thank you, John and Miranda, for having me out. I think this looks awesome for our little town here in Knoxville, and I'm sure hoping that we see some more pumpkins next year from you.
Yep, and on top of that, next year, just so you know, we will be having alpacas, and actually our pumpkin field that's right behind us has to switch into a wildflower field, so I have to rotate. Every 3 years you can only plant the same plot with pumpkins. That helps with the diseases that come in, and it also helps with the bugs. Squash beetles are really bad, and so they try to obliterate our pumpkins. So I've got to switch where we plant next year too.
Excellent. Well, that sounds wonderful. Thanks again.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
we'll be looking forward to seeing what next